Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Straight to It. I am Clem Boogie. Tonight is no kind of special episode or anything like that. It's more so just for talking points. Um, I'm gonna wait till some people get in here and we can get started. Okay, looks like we have someone in here. Just feel free to interact. I'm just going to be talking, kind of bouncing off one another, different topics that have been circulating the headlines. And yeah, just more so an open space for us to just have broad conversation about current events or anything that, strikes any points of interest. All right. Well, I'll get started. I'm sure people will come in as they have the notifications or choose not to. We know people kind of live on a different kind of vibration, so they're going to do what's best suited for them. um, some talking points that I have are, what are some things that are circling the news headlines. One is, if you're a sports buff, I don't know how many people out there are sports buff, but I like to touch on what are some views of the WNBA. Okay. How I look at it is that the WNBA is moving in a direction where it's unprecedented territory for them. For the past few seasons, they've been struggling as far as viewership, market value, obtaining revenue, and getting sponsors to kind of buy in to their product. Everybody knows when it comes to sports, entertainment, anything of that sorts, it's about the ratings and what you bring in return on investments. Um, and frankly, they haven't been playing their part. And that's not to say that the females that are playing in these games are not skillful or not deserving of any of these accolades and praises and things of that nature. I think we live in a world where you're not going to force feed people what they don't want to deal with, what they don't want to see, what they don't want to eat. And I think, you know, we have freedom of choice in this country. Freedom of choice, a lot of places. But I can speak primarily for here because we live here. Where it gets hard is that we have driving forces that want the WNBA to thrive, but the ingredients that's being put into it, it's not matching. A lot of people will give backlash and try to butt heads as to the old adage of the genders, men and women, the equality, and this should be getting this and that. Not necessarily. With the men's, there's tons of markets. There's tons of advertising buffs. There's tons of marketability. And, the game has expanded for the past 30, 40, 50 years now. The women's game, yes, it's getting there. I think they still rely on the NBA to kind of help them out as a buffer as the guys come to the games in the off season. Obviously, it's not too conflicting of schedules and things of that nature. But when it comes to the women's game, it's hard because you know I'm not gonna flat out say people don't want to watch it, even though that's what it is. But there is something to be said that they're pushing so hard to get progression, right? And this season, if you've been paying attention or living under a rock, the young lady, Caitlin Clark, I'm not going to make it about her because I think every publication makes it about her. Every media platform makes it about her. I'm not making it about her. She is a big portion of the pie. I'm not going to lie. And that is a tough pill for a lot of people to swallow, whether you watch sports or not. But it's not her fault. She's gifted in playing the game of basketball. Her notoriety from college is following her. She has a following. What needs to be understood is that times are changing. You hear so many times people talk about they want change, 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 change. Well, I mean, change is never comfortable. So I don't understand why there's so much pushback when it comes to this young lady. And it's not only her, there's Angel Reese, also a nice young lady who's playing for the Chicago Sky. She's been dealing with some bumps and bruises from veteran players because she's the new thing in town. I don't know what this kind of behavior is going to do. I don't know how like that helps elevate the WNBA. There in this particular draft, they had an assortment of individuals who came in, and they came in with good college resumes. They got drafted in great positions, and they seemingly are adding to their team. So I don't understand what the problem is. But hindsight is always 2020. There's always two sides of the coin, which I know a lot of people dislike. You have the old guard, the older veterans on the team, the people who were there where, they were getting the backlash and the notoriety and the spotlight was not on them. They feel a certain type of way. With that being said, you're getting this mean girl mentality that these other veterans are doing to these younger players. And for what? I mean, it doesn't explain nothing. It doesn't prove anything. It just shows that you are bitter. You still feel like there's the old guard of wanting someone to like earn their stripes. Meanwhile, you're still going to be complaining behind the scenes that the game is not grown. You're not visible enough. You feel like you're being underpaid. You have to travel overseas on the off season to go supplement whatever money that you did not make over here in the States. It's a whole plethora of things that seemingly cause problems. So what I want people to understand is you don't have to be a business buff or anything like that, but I think simple logic needs to be interjected into these situations because if I'm not mistaken, the WNBA leadership, especially the head honcho for the WNBA, she used to be a consultant. She used to be a head honcho and one of the bigger consultants of the big four. So I know she can view what the problem is, and I know she's diagnosed it. And I know at this point in time, she's probably banging her head against the wall because you have a cash cow sitting in front of you. Not one, not two, not three. Basically, the first 7 picks in the 2024 WNBA draft are cash cows because if history serves it, a lot of them were, fortunate of the NIL. They were big earners of NIL. They have big endorsements. They have, you know, the who's who. They're bringing in a number of new viewers, bringing supporters and things of that nature. They're actually moving games from certain locations because the crowds and the attendance and capacity cannot hold them, and they're moving them into NBA arenas. No one would have ever thought about this last year or even 3, 4, 5 years ago. So what the WNBA needs to do is embrace it. As I understand it, they're 150% up as far as market. They have already superseded attendance last season, and they've only played, I believe, 10 games. There's a lot of things going. So being mad at one person or a few new bodies, it doesn't prove anything. It just proves that you're sour because there's a new breed coming in, which is fine. But I think, like I said to you before, I think people have to understand change is inevitable. It's never going to be comfortable, but people have to understand that people coming in, there's new blood being interjected in. And I use the NBA as an example. Everybody knows Michael Jordan. You know, he is the GOAT of basketball. I don't want to hear anything. I don't want to fight with nobody. I'm not interested in any of that. But I think people have to understand that these kind of conversations are hard simply because when Michael Jordan came into the league, everybody knew he was the cash cow. And with him being the cash cow, he brought in new enthusiasm. He brought in a new audience in terms of we knew what Magic Johnson was, we knew what Larry Bird was, we knew who Isaiah Thomas was, we knew who Dr. J was, we knew a plethora of those people. But I think what people have to understand is that, like, again, change is the operative word. So when you're going into these situations where you're trying to beat people up, which they did to Jordan from 84 all the way to 1990, the head honcho stepped in and they let people know, if you hurt this guy, you're killing the brand, you're killing the organization. So inevitably, they changed some rules. And what we know now as his airness took off. Not to say he couldn't handle his own, he did his part. But Michael Jordan elevated the game of basketball, taking it overseas. Uh, People were eating McDonald's, eating cereal, drinking Gatorade because this man could just hang up in the air and was wagging his tongue anytime he played basketball. I think people have to understand that, like, you have to adapt. You understand? These things, these touch points, you have to adapt. Whether it's Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Cameron Brink, or anybody. Those are the main threes thus far. You have to adapt. Until the WNBA understands that that is going to be the key buffer for them, it is going to be a sinking ship. In terms of this USA um, roster situation, I don't really understand what the hoopla is about. I get it with people wanting to have like a substantial, they want to feel like they have a strong hold of what's theirs. The integrity, the integrity, the integrity. Let me tell you something. People are about money. You want to grow, you have a cash cow sitting there. That's when you insert Caitlin Clark. I'm gonna tell you why people highlight Caitlin Clark so much. They highlight because she is the right skin color, and I'm not trying to make it about that, but it is what it is. She knows how to play basketball, and she is homegrown. And for 4 years, she was a dominant force in women's college basketball. I give her credit. She's not only the all-time leader in points for women's, she's the all-time leader in NCAA history, period. She knows how to play basketball. Let's cut the nonsense. This has nothing to do with her color, none of that. But from a marketing standpoint and the message that's being pushed, yes, it's needed because when you insert her, when you insert Angel Reese or any of the new breeds in there, it brings a new dynamic. It brings a new pair of eyes. The more eyes that you watch, the more seats that are occupied, the more money, the more marketability. That's when the sponsors come in. There's always going to be something to be said as far as, why her, why her? We had this here, we had that here. People have to start thinking. When she's here, the eyes come in. It gives you the opportunity. Now you know who Asia Wilson is. Now you know who such and such is. Now you know who Casey Plum is. Now you know who Anescu is. Brianna Stewart, and the list goes on and on and on and on. There are tons of people. There's tons of money to be moved around, especially in the game of basketball. And I'm surprised with women. And I'm not trying to make it a personal attack with women. Women are the biggest, they market to women most when it comes to building anything, whether it's shopping, clothing, whatever the case may be. For as much as people want to like push this thing that, oh, um, only if we support like, if men would support, like everything can't be a man's fault. I'm gonna put that right out there. It cannot be a man's fault. Like let's stop that kind of narrative, because that's the road where it gets very dicey. And then you have people who try to insert themselves, but the conversation gets too convoluted, and then some people, and a lot of men primarily, just back away because they don't want to be attacked, they don't want to be labeled as a misogynist, they don't want, and all these, gloriful names that people like to throw out there, and it just turns into an overall a crazy show. It turns into a circus. But that's what I'd have to say about that kind of stuff. I'm gonna look into the comments and see what some people had to say. Um, Spell Reds, how you doing? I haven't seen you in a minute, my man. And Yaya, of course, always a pleasure. Let's see what Yaya has to say. WNBA asking for money without presentation. Yeah, you're right. You're right. And it's everything that I said during my, diatribe of explaining stuff. It's it's just hard because, if you're not putting out a product where it's number one, a viable product where people want to watch it, it's hard for sponsors. There's tons of sponsors out there, and especially for women. You guys have clothing brands, you have, accessories and things like that, and also the main like Nike and things like that going on. It's hard, but I just don't understand what the pushback is all about, and I think that's where things become very problematic. L Dub, how you doing? I haven't heard from you in a long time. Much appreciated for coming in here. Um, but yeah, as far as the WNBA, can they evolve? They're evolving. They're taking the right steps. I just think that it's hard for them to take criticism. I'm not going to lie to you. Even when you watch certain sports shows or you see certain clips here and there, the criticism just turns into a war of words, and then people just get into their feelings, and it turns into a mute point, and then everyone feels like, hey, okay, they stood on business. I mean, no one's really standing on business. It's a conversation to be had, but if you're not willing to have the conversation, then what are we really talking about? But yeah, when it comes to Caitlin Clark, I don't have no beef with her. I understand what it is. This should not be a racial thing. I know people love to do that kind of nonsense. This is sports, okay? Like, get over yourself. If you don't like the girl, that's something different. That's your problem. And I think that's a lot of problem that's going on in the WNBA, where they have, they're protective of their, whatever code or, you know, old guard or whatever the case is with them, but they need to cut it out because everybody has the same common goal, which is to grow the game and, make sure everyone has their just due. But yeah, as far as Caitlin Clark, she's a heck of a talent. She's just a rookie, which I think gets lost in the mix. And yeah, she will, I have no doubt she will improve greatly. Her not being on the Olympic team, it's fine. She's young. It's a growing experience, and she's a competitor. Her next time around, it'll be no question. She'll be there. She'll probably be the first name, if not the second. But, that's what I have to say about that one. I want to talk about the economic climate and how it dictates your days of life. We all work, at least I hope we all do. And it's hard right now for everybody. And there's nothing easy. You get hit every day when you go to the bank, when you go to the grocery store, frankly, when you go anywhere, everything costs. And it's hard because as much as everyone says they don't watch the news, they don't, um, they don't want to be, they don't want the bad news, they don't want the hysteria, they don't want the craziness. And you talk to enough people, everyone feels like they have an answer to why the country's economic climate is the way it is. From my point of view, I don't do the economy. I hate the media. I think the media is just there to toll on people's emotional tolls and things of that nature. I just don't deal with the media. I take it in bits and pieces. I look at the news for the weather, sports report. That's it. I don't get into the minutia of the craziness that's going on. There's too much going on because now we have, if you've been living under a rock, they're changing rules every day. You understand? There's new rules, there's new regulations and interjections that put it. If you live in the Northeast, and especially in the New York City area, driving into New York City, they were trying to tax people coming in, or some kind of toll or whatever, congestion pricing, whatever nonsense that is. I couldn't tell you. But I think with a lot of these moves that are happening in these legislative offices, it has to be like ironed out, because I think it's getting to the point where a lot of things are just ridiculous. We're paying for things that you don't even see. I mean, I've always had a problem. I remember my first getting into the job market, period, first job and everything, and then you're hyped to get your check and everything like that. Then you realize all these taxes and everything like that that's getting taken out. I just want people to understand this. In other countries, when they get taxed, they actually see where their tax goes to. When we get taxed here, it's like the biggest secret known to man. And, you know, what's so backwards about it is the more money you make, the harder you get taxed. And not only that, you owe. So you're getting hit multiple times. So if you're in a higher bracket, I'm not trying to count people's pockets or anything. You pay state tax, city tax, your Medicare, Medicaid, whatever the case may be. Then you have your insurance and things like that. Then you have all the other financial components that go to it. Some people have 401ks, they have their IRAs, things like that, and some people have equity with certain parts, so they divvy the money out. So what your check actually looks like is not really what your check is. So it's always comical when someone says they make X amount of money. You really don't. You really don't, because it gets slashed a multitude of times before you actually see it go into your bank, before direct deposit hits. So, like, if someone is over here, they're saying what the job posting said or what the offer letter said, but that's not what you generally see. And I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions with people entering the workforce, and also people who have been in the workforce for quite some time. I think they forget that component. Just because that's what you see, that's not necessarily what you're bringing home. That's not what you inherit because of your hard earned, all your work. And I'm not saying that you're wrong to think that that's what you are owed. Yes, I look, get your money. And if you can finesse it, do it. I think what's hard is that the way of life now, it's harder. You go to the grocery store, you maybe pick up 4 or 5 things. Let's just say that for the sake of argument. You're running, that probably runs you $70 to $80. Milk, which is a primary function for a lot of people, whether you drink coffee, cereal, whatever, or adding to one of your ingredients, milk is upwards of $7 to $8. It's not a game. If you have kids, I can only imagine. If you have two kids, I can only imagine. It is hard. There's nothing easy about what's going on in this climate because we have, we have these money issues where the news is trying to tell you that, oh, we got to do this, the interest rates for this. No one's buying houses. And if you do have a house, fantastic. You were way ahead of the curve. But you still see people still renting. And it's not because they want to rent. A lot of people would like to own. They would like to press that button, own, and hopefully have investment properties and things like that. But it's just too hard right now. The climate just doesn't allow it, simply because there's a tax here, there's a tax lien here, there's an expectation for you to have pristine credit. If you don't, you get penalized for that. See, credit is everything, but also now in this climate, what a lot of people are understanding and learning is that even if you have pristine credit, it doesn't afford you a decent interest rate. You remember before you used to see commercials, 0% this, 0% that. Not anymore. You don't see it. That is those days are far long gone, because I don't know what our, trade and tariffs and all that and acquisitions and things of that nature, how that works. But I can tell you right now, we're not in good standing. I mean, you don't have to be someone in Congress or in Senate or whatever the case may be to understand the United States of America is not in good standing when it comes to money, period. Okay. So you can sit there and see people going on vacation, flexing and doing all this kind of, they're not doing that. That just means that they were tired at their job and they needed a break to get out of Dodge. That's it. They didn't have extra money laying around. People get fed up. When they get fed up, they pump the gas and they go. They're ready. They're gone. I'm I'm a proponent of that too. So it's not a knock on anybody or anything like that. But I need people to understand that, some things may appear to be glamorous, but it's really not. People are just mentally checked out at points. A lot of people are just tired. People have been at their positions and roles for X amount of years, and they're just burnt out. That's the best way I can explain it. I've talked to enough people where, you know, they've just tried to make transition. A lot of people don't want to quit their job and move into something else because it's just too hard. Everything is volatile right now. And when the market is that unpredictable, it's nothing easy about it. So, people just tough it out. But, my last saying with the economic climate is that, it's hard. And that's the best way I can put it. Uh, I'm not going to say there's money out there, but there's money somewhere. They're just not telling us. I don't know where that money may be or where it's lying, but someone knows where the dead bodies are, and they're not saying. So it's interesting. But, it is an election year after all. So I'm sure there's a level of expectation where it will resolve itself. We saw something like this kind of in 2008, and everybody was in mass hysteria, and it figured itself out. I mean, it took some time, but it definitely figured itself out. And, people carried along, and now it's rearing its head again. I think every so often it rears its head, and people will, tough it out. It's nothing. I don't think, I'm not going to say it's nothing easy or, nothing hard or whatever the case may be, but it's something that people have to take into account when, if you're into the voting and all that kind of stuff. Um, you have to pay attention to where your dollars go, more so, and understand that, there are repercussions as far as this in totality when we talk about where your money goes, what you can save, what is actually needed, and you know, just have money on hand. Like yes, I know everybody lives in an age of, Cash App, crypto, this, that, and the third. That's only going to create so much problems for people. But again, I am not an expert at it. I just, I'm just like you. I just want to know where my money goes, because as soon as I achieve it, is as fast as it goes. And at times it gets depressing. So it's hard to kind of understand that these kind of things, this is the way of the world. And unfortunately, yes, this is the world that we're living in right now currently. So, you know, I guess we have to just kind of bite the bullet and understand that there are dark days, but hopefully they'll brighten up. Um, my next thing is, do you feel safe? And this is just an open conversation as far as feeling safe, because I feel like there are a lot of people, um you know there's no guarantees. Let's just say that, like, we've seen on the news, we've hear, through various social media outlets, and people going through a lot of things, whether it's mental, um you know mental health, or whatever the case may be, or physical health, or whatever. It's just hard. I mean, you never know what one is going through. I think people have to exercise a little more grace, but also be a little more cautious. And what I mean by cautious is that, you know, you walk outside in the street, just be aware. It doesn't matter whether you're man or woman or whatever, just be aware. We see videos far too many times where someone's just lollygagging and just absent-minded as far as where, the area that they're in, dark alley, or being on their phone, and fixate. It's just a lot going on. We live in a world where a lot is going on and people are not paying attention. Let me tell you something. If you have a girlfriend and she worries about your whereabouts, just understand she cares and she loves you. It's hard because some people don't have that. Not even some, a lot of people don't have that. And on the flip side, if you have a boyfriend, husband, whatever the case may be, and he's questioning you and asking you why you dress like this, or what is going on, he loves you. He's not trying to control you. In both situations, no one's trying to control anyone. I think we're so fascinated with what the internet places out there, as far as like one sex trying to strip the other's independence, and and freedom, and all that kind of stuff, and trying to make it feel like things are slave like. It's not. Like, I think the mentality of this stuff is, you know someone feels like they have to be, the not the leader, but they have to be bigger. What they say has to supersede anything that's going on. That's not the way to live at all. So I don't understand, like, where we're going with all this. Like, I have constant conversations with people when it comes to relationship. No, I don't want to talk about relationships right now. We can save that for a different day. But I do want people to understand that, listen, you got people in your lives where they want the best for you. Like, everybody cut the, power, 48 laws of power behavior out just for 2 seconds. I know we all abide by that, and we all want to be cryptic and mysterious and this, that, and the third. When someone is asking you a question, and it goes for me too, I hate being asked questions. When someone asks you a question, they're trying to understand, right? They're trying to understand, and they're trying to, you know, train themselves to understand how to better, approach you, how to better have chatter with you, how to better, open dialogue, understand your feelings, understand like your moods and things like that. It's not easy because when people are talking to you, it just feels like an interrogation. I am the biggest person that will stand on that. I hate being asked questions because you trying to ask me this, that, and the third. You're just only doing that because you're either insecure in my brain. Okay. In my brain, it's you're insecure or you think I'm doing something that I'm really not. And it's caused me problems before. It's caused all of us problems. It doesn't matter whether you're a man or female. It's caused all of us problems. I think we all in our brains are superheroes. We want to just be accountable to ourselves, but we don't understand when we're in relationships or whatever the case may be, there's someone that looks after us. Not physically, but figuratively, yeah. They look after us. They care because they're the last line of defense. If something happens to you, who you think they're gonna call? Who are they gonna, you know, contact if someone says, "Oh, well, Clem got beat up by this, that, and he's laying in such and such hospital." That's why you have a next of kin, emergency contact and all that. I think it's hard in this climate. Whether I have friends all over. I have friends in Cali. I have friends in Philly. I have friends here, New York, Jersey, this, that, and the third. I have friends all over, and people are not safe. We see it. We see it in videos. Someone getting carjacked, someone, getting beat up, someone going to, just merely taking the train, doing this, doing that, robbery, this, that. Like it's hard. It is very hard out here. There's nothing easy about this life that we lead. And, the whole thing is people have to assess what's important to them. And for me, and a lot of people that know me, they know that like inviting me to like parties and events, it's not like before. It's not like when we were in our 20s and even 30s. I don't really go out that much. Like, and if I do, like it's something where I have to know way in advance. Then I'll make the attempt to go. But if it's like the day of, no, I'm not doing it. You're asking me to get up, get dressed, move my car, go look for parking, deal with whatever crowd that's going on out there. I don't know what the scene's looking like. That's just a recipe for disaster. And I'm not the only one in saying that. There's tons of people doing it. Like I hear, yes, everybody doing the brunch thing or whatever. Listen, brunch is just a reason for people to go and just people watch. I'm not interested in that. I can sit home gladly and just watch TV and I'm fine. You know, I think people are just fascinated with what goes on social media and they want to kind of relive it and dial it in as far as their own personal highlight reel. So you're taking away from the experience because you want to say, "Oh, I went to such and such." What was the point? There's no point in it. It's completely baseless. But I say that to say, listen, when you are out, be diligent, pay attention because people are just not aware. Not aware, nothing. It could be a dark alley, it could be, something as simple as you go into your car, gas station, whatever. Too much going on, especially everyone that lives in urban cities or just bigger metropolitans or whatever the case may be. We all know there's a lot going on. You have to have your head on a swivel and pay attention to your surroundings. Because if you're not, that's when it turns into a problem. I'm not saying be a superhero and do anything, but, you know, pay attention because your life is very important, especially if you have a family to come home to they want you to come home in one piece. If you have just parents or whatever that count on you, they want you to come home in one piece. Girlfriend, any extent, even put it like this, even if it's a situationship, guess what? He or she wants you to get home in one piece. I think people have to get out of this, like, I don't care, I'm fine, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. We all need each other. But like I said, it's not a relationship thing I'm willing to touch on, because that's a different kind of headache that people are, dealing with, and that's just a loaded conversation in itself. But yeah, I mean, I just wanted to come on tonight and just rant a couple little things here and there. But I feel like I'm gonna try and do this at least once or twice out of the week, and hopefully people engage more. I definitely appreciate the people that came in tonight and showed me that there's a pulse. But I appreciate you guys, and I know you guys appreciate me. And love is love. But with that being said, I want you guys to have a good night, and I'm over and I'm out. Have a good one.